Ravenshade was a place most had forgotten. Those who hadn't, wished they had. The church at the town's edge, St. Lazarus of the Hollow, hadn't seen a soul in 43 years. Its bell tower leaned like a dying finger, its stained glass windows shattered by time and hatred. Locals whispered about the fire, the congregation that burned inside, and the thing that danced in the flames. No one dared go near it. Until the invitations came. They didn't arrive in the mail. They weren't handed out. They simply appeared. On mirrors. On car dashboards. Tucked into underwear drawers. Slipped into wallets. Always written in that same crimson ink. You are invited to dance. Midnight. St. Lazarus of the Hollow. Cost of entry, your soul. 7 people received it. None knew the others. None knew why they felt compelled to obey. They gathered under the crooked church spire, cloaked in fog, silence wrapping the world like a funeral shroud. Their eyes met. Confused, anxious, but drawn by something deeper than curiosity. A priest with bloodshot eyes clutched his flask. A woman in black leather smoked nervously, lips twitching. A thin man with shaking hands clutched a backpack full of pills. An old schoolteacher with a cane and a crooked smile. A businessman with a gold watch and dead eyes. A teenager who never stopped grinning. And a housewife with burned scars up her arms. The door creaked open. Candlelight spilled out like arterial blood. They stepped inside. The nave was lit by flickering candles, wax oozing like fat over ancient pews. The altar was covered in red velvet, black roses blooming from cracks in the floor. Above them, a chandelier spun slowly, though there was no wind. And the music began. It was a waltz. Haunting. Beautiful. But, wrong. Played backward. Out of sync with reality. It bled through the walls, vibrated in their bones. A voice echoed, silky, cold, amused. Welcome, sinners. A tall figure emerged from behind the altar. He was dressed in a blood-black tuxedo. His face shifted as he moved, sometimes angelic, sometimes rotten and skinless. His presence filled the room with heat and ice at the same time. He bowed low, mockingly. I am your host. Tonight, we dance. He clapped once. The door slammed shut, locks twisting on their own. The sinners turned to run, too late. The devil licked his lips. The price of sin is rhythm, he said, as the music rose. They didn't realize their feet were already moving. They had already begun the dance. Their bodies betrayed them. The 7 sinners stood in a perfect circle, unwilling dancers on a hellish ballroom floor. Their legs twitched. Joints cracked. Arms lifted without permission. The music took them, an invisible marionette yanking their nerves, forcing them to sway in rhythm. The devil clapped again, slowly, mockingly. Lovely, he purred, stepping into the circle. His shoes didn't touch the floor, they hovered slightly above it. Dance, my children. Dance like your salvation depends on it. The killer moved first. He was the teenager, Jordan. Convicted but released on a technicality. A smirk still curled his lips, even as sweat poured down his face. You can't be serious, he spat. This is a joke, right? You're some actor in a costume. The devil's grin widened until it tore past the corners of his face. Without a word, he flicked his hand. Jordan's legs snapped backward like rubber. He screamed. His knees bent the wrong way. His spine arched as if yanked by wires. But he didn't fall, he danced. His body spasmed into a grotesque parody of ballet. Arms flailed. Bones cracked. Skin split where tendons tore. Still, he danced. His eyes bulged from their sockets, his mouth wide in a silent scream. His tongue lolled out, twitching. Blood ran down his shirt. And yet, the music guided him like a lover. The others backed away, but there was nowhere to go. The devil walked a slow circle around the writhing boy. "Murdered your foster parents with a hammer," he whispered in Jordan's ear. "Felt nothing. Told the police they had it coming. You never even cried." Jordan collapsed, but invisible hands jerked him up again. "Not yet," the devil said, licking blood from his glove. "Not until the final step." Jordan's head twisted on his neck like a spinning top. His feet kept dancing even after his ankles snapped. At last, the devil leaned in and whispered something only Jordan could hear. Jordan began to laugh. He laughed with a voice that was no longer his. High-pitched. Manic. A child's giggle layered over a scream. Then his chest exploded outward, ribs spreading open like a blooming flower. Something crawled out. It looked like a fetus, black and slick with tar. It coiled around the devil's shoulders, purring. Jordan's body hit the floor, limbs twitching, still in rhythm. The music slowed. The devil turned to the others. "Each of you brought your sins with you. I merely helped them shine." The woman in leather, Marla, gagged and stumbled back. "We didn't agree to this." He smiled at her. "But you came. That's consent enough, isn't it?" The priest tried to pray. The teacher crossed herself. The businessman tried to smash the door with a pew. It was no use. The devil waved a hand. The doors were gone. In their place, walls of fire and shadow. "No escape," he said gently. "Not until the dance ends." He looked down at Jordan's twitching body. "One down," he whispered. 6 more to go." The music started again. A slow, haunting waltz. And the floor began to bleed. The music changed. No longer the slow waltz of torment, this tune hissed like steam and cracked like burning wood. It slithered into the sinners' ears, coiling around their brains. The devil swayed in place, humming along, as if this song had always existed in his veins. "Next," he whispered. The circle of 6 remained. All staring at what was left of Jordan, his limbs twitching in broken loops, his chest cavity still open like a defiled altar. Marla, the woman in leather, stumbled back, tears welling in her eyes. "I don't belong here," she choked. "I didn't kill anyone. I'm not a monster." The devil's smile widened. "Ah, sweet Marla," he said, stepping toward her. "A dancer in denial. But you forget, I don't judge. I reveal." She shook her head violently. "No. I didn't." He snapped his fingers. And the church vanished. In its place stood a rundown motel room, cigarette burns on the carpet, stained sheets, flickering lights. The others gasped as they stood inside her memory. Marla was there, on the bed, younger, naked, laughing. A man lay beside her, twitching. Foaming at the mouth. A bottle of pills lay on the nightstand, emptied. A glass of whiskey half full. Marla's laugh faded as she watched her own memory. "No. You told him they were just for fun," the devil whispered in her ear. "But you gave him enough to kill an elephant. Just so he'd sleep long enough for you to clean out his safe." Marla backed into the others, shaking violently. He was a predator. He deserved it. The devil grabbed her arm. "Maybe so. But your soul isn't clean just because the devil you killed was worse." The room vanished. The church returned, except the floor beneath Marla's feet melted into hot tar. She screamed as it sucked her down. "No. Please, please don't make me dance." "You already are," the devil whispered. Marla's limbs jerked. She began to twirl. Her skin bubbled as the tar coated her legs, creeping up her thighs. Her screams echoed against the vaulted ceilings. Her feet moved in perfect rhythm, elegant, fluid, betrayed by her burning flesh. She spun. And spun. As the tar reached her mouth, she opened it to scream. But music poured out instead. A warped version of the waltz, played with her vocal cords, every note a howl of agony. Her eyes rolled back, her hair burned away, her arms flailed in unnatural arcs. Still she danced, more gracefully now, as if the pain was polishing her form. The priest vomited. The teacher closed her eyes. The devil applauded. When the tar hardened, it cracked. Marla was frozen mid-twirl, her mouth wide open. Her petrified body still shivered. The devil leaned in, kissed her blackened forehead, and whispered. "Two down." He turned back to the others, wiping a smudge from his lip. The businessman clutched his chest. The priest muttered a psalm. The dealer reached for pills in his pocket, but his pocket was gone. The devil raised his arms and the candles flared brighter, revealing the full altar behind him, 7 empty pedestals, 2 now occupied. One by a broken body. The other by a frozen scream. "Lies are beautiful," he said. "Especially when danced to." The music changed again. A slower beat. A dirge. He turned to the priest, who was trying to recite Latin with shaking hands. "Your turn," he whispered. The candles flickered. The church organ began to play on its own, groaning out a funeral hymn older than time. Pipes screeched. Wood creaked. The air thickened with the stench of incense and rot. The devil faced the priest. "Confess," he whispered. "Let the music cleanse your soul." Father Elijah trembled. He clutched his rosary like a lifeline, the beads clicking wildly in his shaking hands. This is blasphemy," he stammered. "I am a servant of God." The devil tilted his head, amused. "A servant who sins in silence is still a sinner." He raised his hand. Suddenly, the altar twisted and reformed. No longer sacred, now corrupted. The crucifix above it warped, Christ's head turning to stare down at Elijah. His eyes bled. His mouth moved. "You failed me," it rasped. "No," Elijah whispered. "No, I did what I could." But the organ screamed louder, drowning his words. The stained glass windows shattered inward, spraying colored glass across the floor. Each shard carried images. Boys' faces. Innocent. Wide-eyed. Smiling. Elijah's legs buckled. "No. Don't show them." The devil's voice was like a lullaby dipped in poison. "You heard their cries. You looked the other way." "I reported it," the priest shouted, tears streaming down his face. "I told the bishop. He did nothing. I couldn't." "You stayed," the devil cut in coldly. "You locked your door. You heard what happened, night after night, and you prayed it would stop. But you never opened that door." The walls around them morphed, wooden doors with small crosses. Whispering behind each one. A thump. A muffled scream. Whimpering. "No, no, stop, please." Elijah fell to his knees. "You let wolves feast on lambs and called it faith." The devil approached, his feet never touching the ground. He bent beside Elijah and pressed a cold finger to his forehead. "There is no penance for cowardice." Elijah began to convulse. The rosary fused into his flesh, beads sinking into his skin. His robes turned to ash, revealing scars, long, deep, self-inflicted. He screamed as the pews twisted into rows of kneeling children. Each one missing a face, just smooth, skin-colored ovals with no mouths to scream and no eyes to cry. "You can't wash blood with holy water," the devil said. Elijah's arms were yanked upward, forming a cross. Nails, real ones, rusted and jagged, drove themselves into his palms. He shrieked as blood poured from his wounds. The organ blared, accompanied now by a choir of ghostly children humming the hymn he had once sung with them. Elijah was lifted into the air, nailed to an invisible cross. Blood dripped onto the pulpit below. His voice joined the hymn, not as a prayer, but as a scream woven into the melody. His mouth opened one last time, and he whispered, "Forgive me." Then his chest burst open, forming a grotesque stained glass window of flesh and guilt. Inside it, his still beating heart glowed red, encased in thorns. The devil touched it. It turned black and crumbled to dust. Father Elijah's crucified body hung limp in the air. 3 down, the devil whispered. The remaining 4 stood frozen: dealer, teacher, businessman, and the silent girl in the hoodie. The church around them groaned like a living beast. The music slowed again. A jazz rhythm began to rise, slick and seductive. And the devil smiled at the dealer. Time for a little indulgence. The rhythm shifted, smooth, slow, jazzy. A twisted saxophone cried from the shadows, seductive and sinister. Shadows danced along the broken walls like addicts begging for one last fix. The devil's smile curled as he turned to the twitching man with the tattoos snaking up his arms. "Mr. Hyde," he purred. "The alchemist of the underground. Tell me, what's your favorite flavor of ruin?" The man, real name, Marcus Hyde, swallowed hard. His eyes darted around the desecrated church, seeking a way out. He found none. "You don't know me," Marcus spat. "You don't know what I've seen. What I've done." "Oh, but I do," the devil said softly, circling him like a wolf. "You cooked it. Sold it. Watched them rot. You watched their teeth fall out while you counted your cash. You laughed when a girl died in your apartment. She OD'd in your bed, remember?" Marcus's hands trembled. "I didn't force anyone. They came to me. I just gave them what they wanted." "Ah," the devil whispered. "The serpent's lullaby. They wanted it. And you? You wanted their need." He snapped his fingers. The floor beneath Marcus cracked and exhaled thick smoke, smelling of chemicals and sulfur. Suddenly, they weren't in a church anymore, they were in a cramped lab. Beakers bubbled with glowing sludge. The walls dripped with acid. The air was poisoned. Marcus coughed, eyes watering. Shapes emerged from the smoke, zombies in ragged clothes, twitching violently, their arms covered in track marks and burns. Their mouths oozed foam. Eyes sunken. Teeth black. They staggered toward him, chanting, "Feed us. Feed us. No. Get away." Marcus screamed, backing into the devil, who now wore a blood-stained lab coat and smiled like a proud teacher. "You created them," the devil whispered. "Now dance with them." Suddenly, Marcus was yanked into a violent rhythm. The music intensified, bass thumping like a heartbeat on the edge of overdose. His limbs moved on their own, mimicking his old habits. Stirring. Pouring. Injecting. But now, his own veins were the canvas. Needles hovered in the air, jabbing into his arms, neck, and legs in a perverse choreography. Viscous, glowing liquids pumped into him. His skin turned translucent, revealing veins pulsing black tar. He shrieked as boils erupted across his body. His teeth shattered like glass. The addicts circled him, now laughing, children he had sold to, mothers who had begged for mercy. Their voices layered into the music like a chorus of damnation. Marcus collapsed. Then rose again. Puppet strings burst from his spine, hoisting him into a grotesque dance. His arms flailed like broken wings. His body jerked in spasms. The devil led him in a waltz, spinning him violently. Each twirl peeled back a layer of his skin. Each step left bloody footprints that burned into the floor. "Feel the high," the devil whispered in his ear. "The eternal trip. Marcus screamed one last time as his body convulsed and exploded into a cloud of black powder. The cloud hovered above the altar like a drug haze, swirling, suffocating, then collapsing into a mound of ash shaped like a skull. The devil licked his fingers and drew a crooked smile on the skull's forehead. "For down," he said. The music stopped. Only 3 remained. The teacher, the businessman, and the quiet girl in the hoodie. The devil turned to the teacher next. "Time for a lesson, don't you think?" The twisted waltz faded. A slow, solitary bell tolled. The devil's grin stretched as he faced the next sinner, a woman in her mid-40s, sharp glasses cracked, blouse stained with sweat. She clutched her handbag like a shield, trembling. "Miss Wren," the devil purred. "The educator. The moral architect. The one who knew everything, and said nothing." I was trying to protect them," she whispered, her voice brittle. "Lies," he said, with no venom, just certainty. "You protected your job. Your reputation. Your silence." Suddenly, the church transformed again. They stood in a classroom. The walls were papered with childish drawings, smiling suns, stick figure families, colorful shapes. But the paint was faded, curling at the edges. And something oozed down the blackboard like ink, or blood. Rows of desks emerged, filled with ghostly students. Silent. Still. Their eyes hollow. Miss Wren gasped. "No. No, not this." "Yes," the devil whispered. "They told you. Again and again. About the bruises. About the hunger. About what he did to them at home. And you said." His voice mimicked hers, chillingly perfect. "That's not appropriate for school, sweetie." The bell rang again, louder, sharper. Miss Wren clutched her ears, wincing. The ghostly students rose in unison. They opened their mouths. No voices came, just a blaring silence that scraped against her mind like claws. The devil picked up a tiny lunchbox. He opened it. Inside was a broken tooth, and a note written in a child's shaky hand. "Please help me." Miss Wren sobbed. "You dismissed their cries," the devil said. "You filed your reports, closed your door, and smiled for the school board." "I couldn't prove anything," she screamed. "You don't understand how the system works. But you understood how fear works." He touched the chalkboard. The ink-like substance spread across the walls, forming headlines. "Child found dead in apartment. Authorities missed warning signs. School employee under scrutiny." Miss Wren's hands became soaked in ink. She rubbed at them furiously, but the more she scrubbed, the more it sank into her skin, turning her veins black. One of the ghostly children stepped forward. A girl with braids. Her jaw dislocated and hung limp. "One I was missing." She held out a drawing, a stick figure of Miss Wren with her back turned, facing a window while a smaller figure behind her cried and bled. Miss Wren fell to her knees. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." The bell rang again, this time from within her own head. The students screamed now, finally finding their voices, a rising crescendo of anguish and betrayal. Their mouths stretched wide, jaws cracking open unnaturally. They swarmed her. Pencils pierced her flesh. Rulers slammed into her face. Desks rose and crushed her legs. Not in rage, but in silent accusation. "Children, remember," the devil whispered. Miss Wren's eyes rolled back as her mouth was forced open. A chalkboard eraser was shoved down her throat, soaked in black ink. She gagged and convulsed. Her screams merged with the ringing bell. Her body shattered into a cloud of paper scraps, each stained with blood and bearing the word, "failed." Only a single report card remained on the desk. It read, "Miss Wren, grade F, 'cause of death, silence." The devil clapped once, mockingly. 5 down. Now only 2 remained. The businessman. And the silent girl in the hoodie. He turned slowly to the man in the suit. "Shall we make a deal?" he asked.